What if the biggest story at a PGA Tour event had nothing to do with golf? That is exactly the situation unfolding right now at TPC San Antonio. And if you have been following the 2026 Valero Texas Open, you already know this week has been anything but normal. 3 weather delays across 3 consecutive days. A third round that never reached completion. A tournament that could realistically bleed into Monday. And here's the number that puts it all into perspective. Round 3 at the Valero Texas Open became the 5th round suspended on the PGA Tour this season alone. 5 times. And we are not even deep into the calendar year. This is not a minor inconvenience. This is a full-scale disruption to one of the most important tournaments in the lead-up to the Masters, and every player, every fan, and every official at TPC San Antonio is feeling it. Before getting into the chaos of Saturday, it is worth understanding what this tournament represents. The Valero Texas Open is a 104-year-old event, one of the oldest stops on the PGA Tour. It is held annually at TPC San Antonio, and it carries significant weight not just as a standalone event, but because it serves as the final full-field tournament before the Masters tournament at Augusta. That means the pressure here is real, the stakes are high, and the players in this field are either trying to build momentum heading into Augusta or fighting to cement their place in the world. Heading into the weekend, MacIntyre stood at the top of the leaderboard at 15 under par, holding a commanding lead. Ludvig Åberg sat in solo second at 13 under par, 2 shots back. Further down the board, recognizable names like Jordan Spieth, Tommy Fleetwood, Hideki Matsuyama, and Tony Finau were all in the field and in contention or chasing. And then there was the Masters angle. 5 players who are confirmed starters at Augusta National next week missed the cut entirely this week. Russell Henley, Max Homa, Johnny Kiefer, Haodong Lee, and Sepp Straka. Rickie Fowler also did not make the weekend. For those players, this week ended early, and the focus now shifts entirely to Augusta. Now, let us walk through exactly how this week fell apart, round by round, because the story of Saturday's chaos did not begin on Saturday. It began the moment the tournament teed off. Round 1 on Thursday was delayed before it even had a chance to establish any rhythm. Weather conditions forced a postponement from the very start, and the first round was not completed until Friday morning. That one fact alone set the tone for everything that followed. When a tournament cannot complete its opening round on its scheduled day, the entire operational structure gets pushed back and the margin for error disappears. Every subsequent delay becomes exponentially more problematic because there is no buffer left in the schedule. Round 2 on Friday proceeded, but not without incident. A lightning delay struck late in the afternoon around 5:45 p.m. local time, stopping play just as the round was nearing completion. That suspension left Luke Clanton as the only player on the entire PGA Tour field who had not completed 36 holes heading into Saturday. He was sitting right on the cut line at 2 under, meaning a single bogey on his final hole Saturday morning would have sent him home. The drama of his situation was resolved quickly. Clanton returned Saturday morning, his lone remaining hole waiting for him, and he converted a birdie from nearly 36 feet to move to 3 under and safely make the cut. Meanwhile, MacIntyre had already finished round 2 in the clubhouse, holding a 4-shot lead over the field, with the field setting up perfectly for a compelling weekend. But the weekend had different plans entirely. Round 3 on Saturday is where everything unraveled. PGA Tour officials, anticipating the incoming storm system, pushed tee times up as early as 8:10 a.m. local time. They also deployed split tee starts, sending players off both hole 1 and hole 10 simultaneously to maximize the number of holes played before conditions deteriorated. The early start appeared promising. The course was playable, players were moving, and for a brief window, it looked like officials had outmaneuvered the force. That window did not last long. At 11:51 a.m. local time, the horns sounded across TPC San Antonio. Lightning had been detected in the area. Players and spectators immediately headed for shelter. This was not a precautionary pause. The PGA Tour does not negotiate with lightning. The moment it is detected within range, play stops. Period. What followed was one of the most frustrating sequences of events any tournament can produce. A series of restart announcements. Each one subsequently walked back as conditions failed to improve. Play was expected to resume at 2:45 p.m. Players returned to the practice facility at 1:57 p.m. as showers appeared to be clearing. Then a heavier-than-expected batch of showers moved back through the area, and players retreated under cover again by 2:15 p.m. The new target became 3:30 p.m. Then that window closed too. An update was promised at 4:30 p.m. local time, then another at 5 p.m., and then at 5:52 p.m. local time, PGA Tour Rules official Ken Tackett delivered the final verdict. "We're done," Tackett said. "The golf course just can't take any more." That quote tells the complete story. This was not a situation where officials were being overly cautious or conservative. The course itself had absorbed everything it could. Rain had been falling in waves, sheets and more sheets, system after system stalling directly over TPC San Antonio. As Tackett explained, unfortunately, the system stalled out on us. There was no path forward on Saturday. Round 3 was officially suspended for the day, with play scheduled to resume Sunday at 7:45 a.m. Central Time. When play was suspended, the leaderboard was essentially frozen mid-round, and the snapshot it captured was one of the most unusual in recent PGA Tour memory. Not a single player in the field completed round 3 on Saturday. Every one of the 70 players who made the cut will return Sunday to finish the round before playing round 4. MacIntyre's group, the final group consisting of MacIntyre, Aberg, and Kevin Roy, had completed just 6 holes of their third round when the horn blew for the final time. They were among the last to go out and got the least amount of golf in. MacIntyre remains at 15 under par, Aberg at 13 under. Further up in the wave, other players had managed to get significantly more work done before the stoppage. Matt Wallace had played 14 holes of his round and was 7 under on his day when play was called. That included 2 eagles on his card. He stood at 11 under overall, well within striking distance of Marco Penge had also played 14 holes and was putting together one of the more extraordinary individual rounds of the tournament. Penge opened with a par, made birdie at the 11th, bogeyed the 12th, and then caught fire, making birdie at 6 consecutive holes, numbers 13 through 18. He made the turn at 30 and moved to 10 under overall, sitting in a tie for second at the time play was called. Both Wallace and Penge were mid-momentum when everything stopped. It is worth pausing here to note that this tournament has a history with weather delays that stretches back nearly a century. During a delay at this same event in 1928, Tommy Armour and other players used the downtime productively. They formally drafted bylaws for the Professional Touring Golfers Association, which became a direct forerunner of the modern PGA Tour. Weather delays at the Valero Texas Open are nothing new, but the scale of what happened on Saturday is in a category of its own. The competitive fairness problem created by Saturday's events is significant, and it deserves direct attention. When a round is suspended mid-play with players having completed wildly different numbers of holes, the playing field is no longer level in any practical sense. Some players barely started round 3 before the horn sounded. Others, like Wallace and Penge, played a full 14 holes and were riding significant momentum. The groups that went out earliest experienced the calmest conditions of the day. Groups that teed off later encountered deteriorating weather before play was ultimately called. This creates what can only be described as a lottery effect. Who benefited from softer greens in the early morning? Who battled gusts and rain for several holes before the horn? Those variables, none of which have anything to do with skill, can influence scores and outcomes on the PGA Tour. Larson Segerdahl, executive director of the Valero Texas Open, acknowledged the reliance on expert guidance throughout the day. "We really wait and rely on the PGA Tour Rules officials and the PGA Tour meteorologist that's here on site to give us accurate reports," he said. The question hanging over the leaderboard now is a legitimate one. Wallace and Penge were both playing career-caliber rounds when everything stopped. Can either of them recapture that energy and rhythm when they return Sunday morning to finish their remaining holes? That is genuinely difficult to predict. Momentum in golf is a real, measurable force, and stopping mid-round for an extended period, then returning to a cold course early the next morning, is one of the hardest things a professional golfer can be asked to do. For MacIntyre, the calculus is different. As the leader, Having completed only 6 holes of round 3 means he returns Sunday without having been truly tested in the 3rd round. His cushion of 2 shots over Aberg remains intact, but the compressed format of Sunday means he will need to finish those remaining 12 holes of round 3 and then turn around almost immediately to play round 4. Whether that benefits or hurts him depends entirely on how well he manages his mental and physical energy across what will be an extraordinarily long day. Here is exactly what Sunday looks like. Round 3 resumes at 7:45 a.m. Central Time. Critically, groups will not repair between the 3rd and final rounds, meaning there is no formal break between finishing round 3 and starting round 4. Players complete one round and move directly into the next. That is physically exhausting under any circumstances. On a day that also carries a 30% chance of rain, it becomes even more demanding. Tournament organizers have confirmed that the plan remains to crown a champion Sunday evening. However, they have not ruled out the possibility of extending play into Monday. That decision will be made Sunday based on conditions and pace of play. If rain returns and causes further suspensions, the mathematical reality of completing 2 rounds in one day with a reduced daylight window becomes extremely challenging. The physical and mental toll of this format cannot be overstated. Professional golfers build their routines and rhythms around structured rounds with defined rest periods. Asking them to finish a 3rd round and immediately begin a 4th, after a week already disrupted by 3 days of delays, is a legitimate test of endurance, not just skill. Some players will rise to that challenge. Others will lose their rhythm entirely, and the leaderboard will reflect it. There is one more factor worth highlighting as the field heads into Sunday. Akshay Bhatia and Brian Harman won the 2 most recent editions of the Valero Texas Open. Both are left-handed. Robert MacIntyre is also left-handed. Whether that is coincidence or something about TPC San Antonio that suits southpaws is a data point that adds another layer to MacIntyre's position as he tries to close out a win at a venue that has been kind to players like. Now, this is where the conversation becomes yours to shape. The situation at the Valero Texas Open raises a genuinely important question about tournament management and competitive fairness. Would you rather see officials delay a round completely, reset the entire field under uniform conditions, and prioritize a level playing field? Or does the chaos of compressed schedules, uneven conditions, and mid-round suspensions make the tournament more compelling to watch? There is no clean answer, and reasonable people disagree. Which player do you think is best positioned to take advantage of Sunday's compressed format? Wallace and Penge, mid-momentum with rounds already in progress? Aberg, who has been consistently close to MacIntyre all week? Or MacIntyre himself, whose lead and composure under pressure have been the defining story of the first 2 rounds? And is MacIntyre's 2-shot lead over Aberg secure heading into Sunday? Or does a full leaderboard reset, where players who are trailing suddenly have fresh conditions and renewed energy, represent a genuine threat to his position? Drop your predictions in the comments. Every perspective matters in a week this unpredictable. What the 2026 Valero Texas Open has demonstrated this week is a fundamental truth about professional golf, one that no ranking, no form guide, and no amount of preparation can fully account for. Whether it does not care about leaderboards, it does not respect momentum, it does not acknowledge 4-shot leads or career best rounds. It arrives when it arrives, and every player, official, and fan adapts. Or several players in this field, Spieth, Fleetwood, Matsuyama, Finau, tee it up at Augusta National next week for the Masters tournament. The week at TPC San Antonio was supposed to be the final tune-up. Instead, it became a test of patience, adaptability, and mental endurance. Some will carry that experience into Augusta as a positive. Others will arrive needing to reset entirely. Sunday in San Antonio could be one of the most chaotic finishes we see all season. Don't miss it.